Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to be talking about a few questions that you need to ask whenever a patient comes to you with a complaint of a breast lump. The first consideration that comes into picture will be the age of the patient. The younger the age of the patient, the more probability of her having a benign disease. The more middle-aged or older the patient is, the more probability of the breast lump being malignant in nature. So when a patient comes to you with complaint of breast lump, there's a set of questions that you need to ask, and you will ask that question only when you know the reason behind the question. For any case, the one thing you should follow is first you should ask questions regarding the local spread of the disease, then the regional spread of the disease, and then the distant spread of the disease. If you follow this order, there's very less chance of you missing out any important question that you need to ask. So, whenever a patient comes to you with a case of breast lump, the first important three differentials you should consider would be carcinoma breast. Keep in mind that you should consider any breast lump to be malignant until and unless proved otherwise. Until and unless there are specific signs or things in the history to confirm that it's a benign disease, you should consider the differential to be carcinoma of the breast. First, the questions regarding the local spread of the disease. In your HOPI, the first thing you will ask is regarding the progression of the disease, that is the onset, okay, whether it was sudden in onset, whether it was insidious in onset, and then the progression of the lump, that is basically you're asking the initial size of the lump and the present size of the lump and the duration in between the two. Then comes the question whether the lump is painful or painless. See, there are certain benign painful conditions of the breast or diseases of the breast such as mastitis, okay, breast abscess, fibroadenosis of the breast is a painful condition, and sometimes even malignancy of the breast can be painful in cases such as whenever there is hemorrhage and necrosis or when there is nerve involvement or entrapment. There are painless conditions also, painless benign conditions like fibroadenoma of the breast, and even carcinoma of the breast can present with a breast lump which is painless in nature. See, whenever you're talking about this painful or painless being there, you should always keep in mind aberration of normal development and involution of the breast. Basically, this classification, which classifies breast diseases into normal disorder or disease, is to know that for normal you don't need to do anything, for a disorder you need to observe, and for disease you need to proceed with surgery. So always keep in mind to whenever there is pain in the lump, you should ask whether that pain is cyclical or not. Next questions. See, some conditions usually present with secondary changes like ulceration and fungation. This indicates that the malignancy is involving the skin. So how do you ask it? You need to ask the patient if she has noticed any wound on the breast, and if she answers in a positive sense, then you need to ask details regarding to that wound, like the onset, the progression, initial size, present size, and if there is any discharge from the wound. If there is a discharge, you need to specifically ask whether it's a serous discharge, it's a bloody discharge, it's a serosanguinous discharge, or it's a purulent discharge. See, whenever these things come in history, we think that it might happen always only in malignancies. But keep in mind that even Phyllodes tumor, which is known for its huge size, because of its size, it can cause pressure necrosis of the skin and can still present with ulceration. Next questions you need to never ever miss is the question about nipple discharge. And if the patient answers as a yes to the discharge, then you should make sure you ask the color of the discharge. For example, bloody discharge may be presented in ductal malignancies. It can also present in ductal papilloma, okay, whereas this green color purulent discharge can present in cases of duct ectasia. Retraction of the nipple, if it is present, you need to ask whether that retraction is present from a long time, indicating it might have been congenital retraction of the nipple, or recent retraction of the nipple may indicate that there is involvement of the lactiferous ducts. So it indicates that it's a malignant change that is occurring. Now that you have completed all the questions with regarding to the local spread of the disease, next you should focus on the regional spread. So you should consider two things. The carcinoma can spread to the other breast, or it can spread to the axillary lymph nodes. So you should never ever forget to ask if she has noticed any other lump in the other breast, or if she has noticed any swellings in the same axilla or the opposite axilla. You should never miss these questions. Next, regarding questions regarding to the distant spread of the disease, three organs you should consider: liver, lung, and bone. So whenever this you're considering spread to the liver, two things can happen. Either this lymphatic spread or this hematogenous spread. The first most commonest way of spreading to the liver is through the lymphatics. These lymphatics, which are around the nipple areola complex, okay, these lymphatics, they go underneath the sternum, then go underneath the posterior rectus sheath. They communicate with those lymphatics there, and those lymphatics will communicate with the lymphatics in the falciform ligament of the liver, and from there these tumor cells spread to the surface of the liver. And keep in mind, these are surface metastases which are occurring, and because of that they do not present with jaundice because there's no harming of the hepatocytes as such. These surface mets, because they stretch the Glisson's capsule, these patients present with pain abdomen, and that too right upper abdomen, pain abdomen. Okay, so this is how they present, and this is a more commoner way of presentation of liver metastasis than the hematogenous spread. Parenchymatous metastasis to the liver occurs by hematogenous spread, and these patients also will present with pain abdomen because these metastases have areas of hemorrhage and necrosis. It is very unlikely that these patients may present with jaundice because for jaundice to occur, a large area of liver should be damaged, and that does not occur in case of liver metastasis. So they also present with pain abdomen, they may present with ascites. Next, considering the pleural spread. What happens is, keep in mind that pleural spread is more common than lung parenchymatous spread in the case of carcinoma breast. What happens is, the tumor cells from the breast lump, they go into the intercostal nodes, and this intercostal node, which is present at the junction or at the point where the intercostal artery divides into two branches, this occurs at the junction of posterior 1/3 of the rib and anterior 2/3 of the rib. So from this lymph node, the tumor cells metastatize to the surface of the pleura. Again, they have a surface spread, and because of that they will have an exudative type of pleural effusion. So the patient may present with dyspnea or dyspnea on exertion, and they may present with chest pain. That is the reason you ask this question of chest pain, breathlessness, or breathlessness on exertion. Lung metastasis unlikely or less common, but it can still occur and produce cannonball metastasis, but this occurs by a hematogenous route. For this, the patient may present with cough or hemoptysis. So the next common thing where carcinoma breast can spread is the bones, and most commonly it will be the thoracolumbar vertebrae which is involved because of the spread of the tumor cells from the Battson's plexus. They will present with lower back pain, and when you examine there will be tenderness of the spine. In the past history, only significant importance will be that of radiation. Earlier, radiation was used for Hodgkin's lymphoma, and this duration of exposure to radiation, the time duration between exposure of radiation and presentation with breast lump is very long, almost 10 to 20 years. So this is a question that can be asked. Most important history you are going to ask in any case of carcinoma breast or breast lump will be the menstrual and obstetric history. The important concept here will be estrogen versus progesterone exposure. That is, more the duration of estrogen exposure and lesser the duration of progesterone exposure, higher chances of developing malignancy in the breast in that particular female. So what all questions you need to ask will be menarche and menopause, age of menopause, earlier the age of menarche and later the age of menopause. That means the duration of exposure to estrogen will be higher. So they will have higher chance of developing, higher risk of developing carcinoma of the breast. See, progesterone has a protective action against carcinoma of the breast. So higher the parity or more the number of term deliveries, that means higher, longer the duration of exposure to progesterone. That means that progesterone is cutting down the duration by which estrogen is exposed to the breast. So these progesterone will be a protective factor, whereas estrogen will be a risk factor for developing carcinoma of the breast. Breastfed or not, you should ask, whenever you are asking the history of number of deliveries, you should always ask if each of the child has been breastfed or not, and if it's been breastfed with both the sides, okay? Because breastfeeding has a protective action against developing malignancy of the breast. Family history is important because especially the first degree relatives, the mother, the sister and the grandmother, you're going to ask these history if they had developed any lump in the breast because of the involvement of BRCA gene, that is BRCA1 gene, and that is why family history is an important factor which you should not miss. OCPUs, actually, OCPUs earlier, the contribution of estrogen in a OCP combined pill had a higher percentage and a higher dose. So, because of the higher estrogen dose, it was a risk factor for developing carcinoma of the breast. But nowadays, the estrogen dose in the OCPs, that is oral contraceptive pills, has been reduced. So, and because it's always a combined pill which is combined with progesterone, it's very less likely that it might have caused affected as a risk factor for developing malignancy, but you can still ask the history of oral contraceptive pill use. See, you should all this time we have been discussing, we have assumed that the lump in the breast has occurred in a female, but keep in mind that malignancy of the breast can also occur in a male, and male also can present with breast lump. But if it occurs in the male, you should always consider it to be malignant unless and until proved otherwise. So even if a male patient comes to you with lump in the breast, you're going to ask all the same set of questions except the menstrual and obstetric history, of course. But keep in mind that this is the way you're going to ask the questions even if it's a male patient. So hope this video was useful. Thank you for watching.